Doctor says it's just too much dust in the air.
It's a battle.
I've admittedly been a big fan of yours since Betty in Masters of Sex, so it's a real treat to get to chat with you. And Hold Your Breath is just quite the powerful film from start to finish. What was it about, your character and the script that really sparked your interest to be a part of it?
First of all, thank you. This script had two narrative threads that I thought were so applicable, unfortunately, to our present day, and also really fascinating themes to explore in the horror genre. I always say, like, a good horror film is something that makes us feel something and scares us, but a great horror film is something that makes us feel something, scares us, but has threads of humanity and heart. And I think this qualifies because there's two threads of narrative, one of which is the impact that climate change had on the 1930s. There was a climate disaster that was natural. That was man-made, that was not natural. And I don't think people are educated enough about it. And it was really scary, and it had a devastating effect on the humans that lived in that part of the land. And then the other narrative thread that's fascinating to me is this one that explores having to stay inside because you're afraid of what's outside. The movie was written before COVID, which is so ironic and fascinating because it was outrageously applicable to our experience during COVID. You were afraid of what was outside and you had to stay inside. And staying inside was a really big struggle for so many people's mental health. And I think the film touches on that in an extraordinary way.
Yeah, I couldn't help but immediately draw that parallel between them. And it really is such a powerful one. And I also really love your character's arc of wanting to be a protective mother, but obviously sort of not being all there and struggling with this wasteland. Given that you yourself are a mother, I'd love to hear, how much you pulled from your own experience of being a parent to really tap into the heart of your character.
Being a mom of an 8-year-old little boy and almost a 0-year-old little girl, I'm just on the verge. I could have her right now. But yeah, I was so heartbroken for this woman. And it reminded me that for generations, women had to navigate the unfortunate kind of often loss of children. And it's something that we don't even think about in our generation. It's one of the most horrific experiences and forms of trauma that a human can experience is losing a child, losing anybody. But losing a child is particularly painful and trauma-inducing. And it was just so common back then. And the way that women were treated when they experienced loss was unfortunately really really cold. And I was reminded in exploring the character of how unfortunate the patriarchy was for women of that era, and what a lack of support they had for mental health, and what a lack of understanding they had for mental health. So I think, the film made me really just have a lot of respect and love for those who have come before me and are, the generations of the past, of the constant trauma that they had to navigate. I'm so glad with therapy, aren't you?
Yes, I actually am, as having been there myself. It is a very helpful tool. I see I got to wrap already, but I just want to end then by saying I love this film. I love how it tackles everything we've talked about, and I can't wait for people to really become further educated because of it. So, Annaleigh, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
He can get through locks, closed windows. He comes apart like dust. He seeps in through the rain.
Please, come on.